In this video, I'm going to share 5 ways that psychedelics can open our minds, expand our consciousness, and help us to spiritually awaken. It's amazing to think that a few grams of a dried mushroom can offer an experience so profound that it changes our entire outlook on life and the nature of reality. But that's exactly what psychedelic research has been finding. This study out of Johns Hopkins found that over 70% of the sample rated their experience with psilocybin as among the top 5 most spiritually significant experiences of their entire lives. And this is why our ancestors have used psychedelic substances in their spiritual traditions for thousands of years. So in this video, I want to share 5 insights, 5 concrete ways that psychedelics can help us on this path of spiritual awakening. And it's really important that we recognize that psychedelics are a tool. They are a stepping stone to higher consciousness, but not a crutch, right? That's an important distinction, and I'll continue to talk about that. But where this has ultimately led me to is the recognition that life is an infinite miracle. And that there is so much more to the mystery of existence and the mystery of self than we're usually aware of, and ultimately the recognition that we are not human beings having spiritual experiences. We are spiritual beings who are right now having a human experience. And that realization has changed my life, has brought so much more beauty and love and joy into my life. And that's why I think this is so important to discuss. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to Cosmic Consciousness. My name is Jonas, and around 10 years ago, my experiences with psilocybin mushrooms and later with DMT, dimethyltryptamine, completely transformed the way that I see life and the nature of reality and the nature of consciousness. Here's the basic idea that I want to propose, is that psychedelics are tools for expanding our awareness, for expanding our self-awareness. Just in the same way that we use a telescope to peer more deeply into space, psychedelics are a tool for peering more deeply inwards into the nature of mind and consciousness. Now I'm going to break this down into 5 key points, but before I go any further, I want to give a shout out to a new partner here on this channel, Mighty Fungi. I've been taking their lion's mane mushroom extract for the past 3 weeks, and I honestly have to say, this is a different type of magic mushroom. This stuff is absolutely amazing. I've noticed significant increases in my mental clarity, my ability to focus and concentrate, and lion's mane has been shown to alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety and even have neurogenerative effects. Visit the Mighty Fungi site at the link below and use the discount code INNERVISION to support this channel while also getting an amazing product. Thank you all so much. Now, the first way that psychedelics help us to spiritually awaken is that they open up doors of perception and help us to see beyond limiting beliefs. Research shows that psychedelics shut down what's called the default mode network in the brain, which is essentially all of our mental filters and conditioned ways of seeing the world. Aldous Huxley famously described psychedelics as opening up doors of perception, opening up new ways of seeing the world without all of our old baggage, without all of our old limiting beliefs. This can be a profound spiritual experience of recognizing that there's so much more to life than we're usually aware of. Like, this physical universe is just the tiniest tip of the iceberg of this infinite mystery of life, right? But there's more to be said about opening doors of perception, because this is not just an outward thing, it's also inwards into those deep parts of our mind, the unconscious or subconscious parts of our mind. Memories, thoughts, feelings, emotions, often going back to early childhood, start bubbling up in the psychedelic experience. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Because we all have these shadow parts of ourselves. We all have these parts of ourselves that are wounded, that are repressed, that we feel ashamed of, that we don't want to acknowledge. And this kind of deep shadow work of healing these unconscious wounds this is such a massive step on the path of spiritual awakening. Such a massive step, because this is how we begin to embody higher states of consciousness. This is how we release that which no longer serves us, and how we step into higher states of consciousness and embody spiritual wisdom. The second way that psychedelics help us to awaken is that they reveal the sacredness of life. Now again, this is like this experience of seeing life in new ways and recognizing that there is a beauty and a mystery to life that we usually just passes right on by, right? Usually we don't even notice it. In these psychedelic states of consciousness, when these doors of perception are opening, when we're more aware, these are pivotal mental states where the experience can literally rewire the way that we perceive life and the world. I'll give you an example. The very first time I took psilocybin mushrooms, and I've told this story before, but it's worth repeating, I was out in a field and I remember just laying in the grass, looking around at the grass, looking at all the insects flying by, the trees swaying in the wind, the clouds passing by, all these, seemingly mundane details of life that I would normally just look right past. Suddenly it all appeared as an infinite miracle. I could immediately apprehend in this just overwhelmingly beautiful way that there is a sacredness to life that's rippling through every single atom in existence. These are called mystical experiences, right? Where we encounter some aspect of reality that's felt to be sacred or divine. And this is a massive spiritual breakthrough where we begin to relate consciously to the sacredness of life and honor that in our everyday lives. The third way that psychedelics can help us spiritually awaken is through experiences of ego death, rebirth, and a deeper sense of self. If you look at all of the spiritual traditions from all over the world, they all share this core truth, this core teaching that self-knowledge is the key to awakening. It's the key to liberation. It's the key to higher states of consciousness. It all begins with self-knowledge, right? And psychedelics just so happen to offer experiences that can fundamentally shift our sense of identity and sense of self. And you may have heard people describe experiences of ego death or ego dissolution, this feeling of dying and being reborn. And this does relate back to the default mode network shutting down, this conditioned way of perceiving the world in the brain shutting down, and this can feel like we are losing our mind. It's not uncommon in the psychedelic experience to feel like one is actually literally dying. And that sounds terrifying, but it can also be blissful. And almost always, if we can find it within ourselves to open to that experience, to surrender to that experience and just go with it, it transforms into a really blissful and profound spiritual experience where we're discovering, we're getting in touch with this deeper aspect of ourself and finding out that there is so much more to who we are than who we think we are. Eckhart Tolle says, the single most vital step on your journey to enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from the mind. That's a really profound idea. And there's this question, right, of what remains if there are no thoughts? What remains if we temporarily give away all of our human identity, the name that we were given, all the beliefs, all the opinions, all these aspects to our ego, our identity that we learned over time, right? There's something deeper than that. It's like Michael Pollan described in his book, How to Change Your Mind, this experience of seeing his identity all of a sudden scatter as a million different Post-it notes. You know, the identity of father, of writer, of journalist, of all these different things, and he found a new ground to stand upon. Through getting in touch with this deeper aspect of our being, through getting in touch with soul or spirit, this is a massive spiritual breakthrough. The fourth way that psychedelics help us to awaken is by revealing the oneness of life, the interconnectedness of all things. At certain points in the psychedelic experience, it feels like a bird's eye view, a cosmic perspective, a bigger picture perspective, where we're able to see the fundamental unity and interconnectedness of life and feel that we ourselves are embedded. We are woven into the fabric of life, the fabric of space and time. We are a part of this great mystery. And this is often described as a mystical experience. In fact, feelings of profound unity, this is the core feature of the mystical experience that's been described by mystics and sages all over the world. And again, this is the core spiritual teaching, the core spiritual truth, is that through cultivating self-awareness, first we begin to see beyond the ego, the identity in the mind, and then we begin to recognize that this lifetime is an expression of something much, much greater than this one human physical body. The fifth way that psychedelics help us on the path of awakening is by revealing that consciousness is infinite. In the psychedelic experience, in these expanded states of consciousness, in these mystical experiences of cosmic oneness and unity, at a certain point, there comes the conviction that what we are, there's something to what we are that is beyond this human lifetime, that does not die with the death of the physical body, that did not begin with the birth of this body and will not end with the death of this body. It is transcendent. There's an ancient Hindu teaching, Aham Brahmasmi. It roughly translates to, at the very core of our being is the ultimate reality, the root and ground of the universe, the source of all that exists. If we are one with the infinite, if we are an expression of the infinite source of life, then it stands to reason that there is something here within each one of us that is infinite as well. It's just like how a wave on the surface of the ocean is infinite in the sense that it is an expression of the entire ocean, right? And this is the idea of cosmic consciousness, that the consciousness, the awareness within each one of us is part of an infinite unified field. It's emerged out of the infinite source of life itself. And in that sense, consciousness is infinite. And I'll just share one more experience that I had related to this point. It was an unbelievably beautiful ayahuasca experience. I was honored to participate in a ceremony a few years ago, and it felt like, from a perspective outside of my body, from some sort of cosmic perspective, I was able to see previous lifetimes, previous incarnations that I had lived, and to understand that there is some essence, there's some deeper transcendent essence of consciousness or awareness that continues through these lifetimes. And I'm now convinced that we all have lived countless lifetimes, countless incarnations previous to this one, and that this human experience is an unbelievably sacred opportunity for us to continue on the path of growth and awakening and evolution. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe and visit me at Intervision Psychedelics, where you can schedule a free one-on-one session with me. So much love, and I'll see you back here very soon.